4 years. 1,460 days of doctor appointments, medication schedules, middle of the night falls, and learning how to help my mother do things no child should have to help their parent do. My brothers showed up for Christmas. Usually, when Mom died and the lawyer read the will, Robert actually said out loud in front of everyone, "That doesn't seem fair." I laughed. I couldn't help it. Nothing about the last 4 years had been fair. But what came next? That part was pretty fair. That part was actually really fair. Okay, so let me start by saying I didn't plan any of this. I know that's probably what everyone says. But genuinely, when I moved back to Portland in the fall of 2021 to help my mom, I was not thinking about money or inheritance or any of that. I was thinking about the fact that she'd fallen twice in 1 month and was living alone in a 3-bedroom house, and my brothers were, well, I'll get to my brothers. My name is Megan Walsh. I'm 36. I used to be an interior designer. Good one, actually. I had my own small firm in Seattle, 3 employees, clients who referred me to other clients. I liked my work. I was genuinely good at it and it paid well, and I was maybe 2 years away from being able to buy my own place. Then Mom's neurologist called and used the words progressing faster than we'd hoped, and that was kind of it for that particular version of my life. Parkinson's is not a quick disease. I want to be upfront about that because I think people hear neurodegenerative and imagine something that happens fast. Doesn't. It's slow and it's relentless, and it takes things away in this horrible incremental way that almost makes the slowness worse somehow. 1 month she's just a little unsteady. 6 months later she needs help with buttons. A year after that, I'm not going to get into all of it. You get the idea. I moved into her spare room in October 2021. I told myself it would be temporary. 3 months, maybe 6. Get her settled, figure out a care plan, find some in-home help and go back to Seattle. 4 years later I was still in that spare room. Robert, my oldest brother, 44, lawyer in Chicago, very important, called at least once a week. I'll give him that. He called. He asked how Mom was doing. He said things like, "Let me know if you need anything," with the confidence of someone who has never once considered that, "Let me know if you need anything," is not actually help. I needed a lot of things. I needed someone to sit with Mom for 3 hours so I could sleep. I needed someone to take over her Thursday physical therapy appointments because I had a client call. I needed someone to be there when she had a bad night, and she had bad nights a lot toward the end. What I got instead was phone calls. Daniel, 41, Phoenix, commercial real estate, was worse in a different way. He didn't even call that much. He'd text little bursts of "thinking of you guys" with a sun emoji like we were on vacation. He came to Portland twice in 4 years. Twice. Both times he stayed for exactly 4 days, spent 2 of them working remotely from Mom's kitchen table, declared it so hard to see her like this, and flew home. I remember after his second visit he texted me from the airport. Said, "You're a saint, Meg. Seriously. I don't know how you do it." I stared at that text for a while. Then I put my phone down and went to help Mom with dinner. Here's what doing it actually looked like for the record. I was up by 6 every morning to help her with her medication. She took 11 different pills at various times of day, and missing or mistiming them had real consequences. Breakfast had to be a specific texture by the 2nd year because swallowing had become complicated. Her physical therapist came Tuesdays and Thursdays, and on the other days I did the exercises with her myself because the therapist showed me how an insurance only covered 2 sessions a week. I drove her to her neurologist every 6 weeks. Dr. Kamala Reeves at OHSU 40th floor, always running 20 minutes late. I drove her to her cardiologist quarterly, to her ophthalmologist twice a year, to the pharmacy so often they knew us by name. I did the grocery shopping, the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry. I helped her bathe. I helped her dress. I sat with her at 3 in the morning when she was frightened and couldn't explain why. I gave up my lease in Seattle in January 2022. Quietly. Told my employees I needed an extended leave of absence. 2 of them waited about 4 months before finding other positions, which I understood. I would have done the same. My firm didn't exactly dissolve. It just stopped, like a clock winding down. I did not, and this is important, I did not do any of this while keeping a running tally of hours and costs with the intention of presenting a bill later. I did it because she was my mother. I did it because the alternative, putting her in a facility she hated with strangers, felt wrong in a way I couldn't reason myself out of. I did it because some nights she'd reach over and take my hand and say, "Thank you, baby," in that quiet way she had. And that was enough. Really was. The invoice thing came later. That was Robert's idea, actually. Well, his lawyer's idea. And indirectly Howard Chen's. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Mom died on a Tuesday morning in March. I was with her. I had been with her every day for 4 years. I was hardly going to not be there at the end. Called Robert first, then Daniel. Robert said he'd fly in Thursday, and to his credit, he did. Daniel drove up from Phoenix, which took him 2 days and apparently involved a stop in Sacramento for reasons he was vague about. The funeral was small. Mom had wanted it that way. Howard Chun, who had been Mom's attorney for 12 years and who I had met maybe 3 times before all of this, reached out 2 days after the funeral. He asked if I could come to his office on Friday. All 3 of us, if possible. Robert said, of course, very formal, very lawyer to lawyer. Daniel said sure, he'd push his drive back a day. I said okay. I didn't think much about it. I was exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. The specific bone-level tiredness that settles in after years of sustained caregiving and doesn't lift immediately just because the caregiving has ended. I went to Howard's office because it was the next thing on the list of things to do, and I had been doing the next thing on the list for 4 years, so I did it. I had no idea what was waiting in that office. And honestly, neither did Robert and Daniel, though they thought they did. Howard Chin's office was on the 3rd floor of a building on SW Broadway that smelled like old carpet and decent coffee. Small waiting room, a receptionist named Gloria who offered us water twice, framed diplomas on the wall that nobody reads but everyone notices. We sat in his conference room, me, Robert, Daniel, and waited. Robert had his laptop open. Of course he did. He was reviewing something or pretending to. He had that lawyer thing where he's always performing competence even when there's nothing to be competent at. Daniel was on his phone. I was just sitting there, looking at the grain of the wood on the conference table, thinking about nothing in particular, which was new. For 4 years my brain had always been running something in the background. Medication times, appointment reminders, whether Mom had eaten enough. The quiet was strange. Not peaceful yet, just strange. Howard came in at 10 past. Apologized. Said these things always run over in the way of someone who says that every day. He sat down, opened a folder, looked at the 3 of us. Patricia updated her will about 22 months ago, he said. I want to walk you through it. Robert closed his laptop. First time all morning. The original will, the one from 2015, had split everything 3 ways. Equal shares. House, savings, investments, personal property. Clean, simple, exactly what you'd expect from a woman who had raised 3 kids and wanted to be fair. That will no longer existed. Howard explained this calmly. He had a way of delivering information at a pace that didn't allow for interruption, not fast exactly, just steady. Like a conveyor belt. You could put your hand out but the belt didn't stop. The updated will left the house to me. Just me. Full title, no conditions. The savings account about $47,000 also to me. The investment portfolio, valued at approximately $112,000 at the time of the update, to me. Robert's inheritance. The dining room set he'd always admired and $5,000 in cash. Daniel's. The grandfather clock from the hallway and $5,000 in cash. The room went quiet the way rooms go quiet when something large has just landed in them. Daniel looked at me like I'd done something. Like I was somehow responsible for what he'd just heard. I genuinely didn't know what my face was doing. I was still processing. Robert, and I give him credit for composure here. He is a lawyer after all, said very evenly. Howard, can you walk us through the rationale? Howard said yes. And then he opened a second folder. Mom had written a letter. 4 pages, handwritten, dated September 2023. Howard read it out loud. That was apparently her instruction. He was to read it in the room to all 3 of us together. I'm not going to give you the whole thing. It was private in a way that even now feels like it belongs to us and not to anyone else. But I'll tell you the shape of it. She said she loved all 3 of her children. She meant that. It came through. She also said she was not blind. She said, and I remember this part almost word for word, I have watched Megan give up her career, her home, her relationships, and 4 years of her life to be with me. I have watched my sons write checks and make phone calls and call it enough. It was not enough. I know what it cost her. I watched it cost her every single day. This is not punishment. This is accounting. This is not punishment. This is accounting. That was Mom. That was completely exactly 100% Mom. Daniel made a sound. Not a word, just a sound. Robert said nothing. I was looking at the table again. Here is where it gets complicated. About 3 weeks after the will reading, once Robert had gotten back to Chicago and talked to his own attorney, I got a call. Robert had decided to contest the will. His argument, as explained to me through Howard, was that Mom had been in cognitive decline when she updated the document, that she hadn't been of sound mind, that the distribution was so drastically different from her original intentions that it raised questions about undue influence. Undue influence. Meaning me. Meaning I had somehow manipulated a woman with Parkinson's into changing her will in my favor. I sat with that for a day. Maybe 2. Then I called Howard. What do I need? I said. Documentation, he said. Of your contributions. As specific as possible. How specific? Think of it like a contract dispute, he said. Hours, services, costs. Everything you can reconstruct. Okay, fine. I went back to Portland and sat at my mother's kitchen table, my kitchen table now technically, which still felt completely surreal, and I started going through 4 years of records. Because here's the thing about me. I ran a business. I am not a disorganized person. I had kept records not because I planned to use them, but because keeping records is just what I do. Appointment receipts. Pharmacy receipts. Mileage logs. I had tracked mileage for tax purposes out of habit. A journal I kept sporadically but consistently enough to have dated entries for most of the significant events. Emails to Robert and Daniel updating them on Mom's condition that they had mostly responded to with thanks for the update, or nothing at all. I spread it all out on the table. Then I started building a spreadsheet. Not like Aaron Monroe's wife's spreadsheet, this was different. This was ugly and practical, and it took me 11 days and it made me cry twice. Not because of the numbers but because of what the numbers represented. Every line item was a memory. The $340 at Walgreens in February 2022 was the week she couldn't keep anything down, and we tried 4 different anti-nausea medications before finding one that worked. The 847 miles in March 2023 was the month we were doing specialist appointments every week, and I was driving an hour each way and coming home and making dinner like nothing had happened. When I finished, I sent it to Howard. He called me the next morning. "Megan," he said. And then he paused in a way that told me the number was significant before he said the number. 4 years of caregiving. Professional home health aid rates in Oregon. $28 to $35 per hour. I had been providing the equivalent of full-time plus overtime care for most of that period. Medications I had paid out of pocket when insurance didn't cover them. Transportation costs. The clients I'd lost. The income one hadn't earned. Conservative estimate. $340,000. Not including the 4 years of my career I couldn't get back. Howard was quiet for a moment after he gave me the number. Then he said, "Robert's contesting a will that's leaving you approximately $164,000 in assets. You have documentation supporting a caregiver contribution claim of $340,000. He might want to think carefully about whether he actually wants to go to court." I looked out the window at Mom's garden, my garden, which needed work. She'd loved that garden. I hadn't had time to take care of it properly in the last year, and it showed. "Send it to his attorney," I said. "Are you sure?" "Yeah," I said. "Send it." I hung up and went outside and stood in the garden for a while. $340,000. I hadn't thought of it that way. I genuinely hadn't. But now that it was a number on a page, concrete, documented, conservative, I thought about Daniel's text from the airport. "You're a saint, Meg. Seriously. I don't know how you do it. At $28 an hour, apparently. That's how I did it." Robert's attorney called Howard 3 days after we sent the spreadsheet. Howard relayed the conversation to me that same afternoon. Apparently the call was brief. The attorney, some guy named Patterson from a firm in Chicago, had reviewed the documentation and wanted to discuss a potential resolution outside of litigation. Translation: Robert had seen the $340,000 figure and done the math. Howard explained it to me plainly. If Robert pushed the will contest to probate court, the judge would almost certainly see the caregiver contribution claim alongside it. Oregon has specific statutes around caregiver compensation. The documentation I had, the receipts, the mileage logs, the appointment records, the emails where I kept both brothers updated and they responded with thumbs up emojis, was, in Howard's words, unusually thorough. Unusually thorough for a caregiver, he clarified. Completely normal for someone who ran a business. Yeah, exactly. So Patterson wanted to talk. Fine. We talked. The call happened on a Wednesday. Me, Howard, Robert, Patterson, all on the same line. Daniel wasn't on it. I found out later he'd told Robert to handle it, which was so on brand I almost laughed. Robert opened with the thing I'd been expecting, the cognitive decline argument. Mom had been ill. Her judgment may have been compromised. The original will represented her true intentions, and the update had occurred during a period of. Howard interrupted him, gently but clearly. He pointed out that Mom's neurologist, Dr. Reeves, OHSU, who had been seeing her every 6 weeks for 3 years, had documented her cognitive status at every appointment. Parkinson's primarily affects motor function. Mom's cognitive faculties had remained largely intact until the final 4 months of her life. The will update had occurred 22 months before her death. At that point, according to Dr. Reeves's own notes, she had been sharp. Frustrated by her physical limitations, as she always was, but sharp. Howard had obtained those records. Of course he had. He'd been her attorney for 12 years. He knew exactly where to look. Patterson was quiet for a moment. Then he pivoted. Said the distribution still seemed extreme. Said surely there was a middle ground that honored Patricia's intentions while ensuring all 3 children were treated with dignity. I'd been sitting there quietly up to this point, which took some effort. But when Patterson said dignity, I didn't mean to laugh. It came out before I could stop it. Just a short one. But everyone heard it. Howard gave me a look. I pressed mute. Here's what Robert actually wanted as it turned out. He wanted the investment portfolio. The $112,000. He felt, and Patterson relayed this with a straight face, which I respect, that as the eldest child, Robert had a particular stake in preserving the family's financial assets, and that the portfolio represented the kind of long-term wealth that their father had worked to build and that should remain accessible to the broader family. Their father, for reference, had been dead for 19 years. But sure, the portfolio. I unmuted myself. Robert, I said. Can I ask you something? A pause. Go ahead. In 4 years, how many nights did you spend in Portland? Silence. Roughly, I said. Ballpark. More silence. I was working, he said finally. I have a demanding. I'm not asking you to justify it, I said. I'm genuinely just asking. How many nights? He didn't answer, which was an answer. I counted, I said. From my journal. 14. In 4 years you spent 14 nights in Portland. Daniel spent 11. I let that sit. Between the two of you, you were here for 25 nights. I was here for approximately 1,460. I paused. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I genuinely am not. But I need you to understand what you're asking me to give up, and why I'm not going to do it. Patterson started to say something. Howard cut him off smoothly. The man was really very good at his job. We went back and forth for another 40 minutes. Robert dropped the portfolio demand somewhere around the 20-minute mark. He shifted to asking about the house, specifically, whether I'd consider a buyout arrangement where I stayed in the house but compensated him and Daniel for their theoretical share of its equity. The house was worth about $380,000. Their theoretical third shares would be around $126,000 each, minus the mortgage payoff. I told Howard to pull up the Caregiver spreadsheet on his screen. I said, Robert, if I had been a professional home health aide hired from an agency, you and Daniel would have been paying roughly $85,000 a year for my services. Over 4 years that's $340,000. Mom's estate didn't pay me anything. I used my own savings when there were gaps in her insurance coverage. I have receipts for $23,000 in out-of-pocket medical expenses alone. I paused. Your third of the house equity is $126,000. My documented contribution to Mom's care is $340,000. You want to talk about buyouts? A very long silence. Then, and I wasn't expecting this, Robert said. I didn't know it was that much. Not defensive. Not lawyerly. Just quiet. Like the number had reached some part of him that the argument hadn't. I know you didn't, I said. And the thing is, I meant that too. Not sarcastically. I genuinely believed he hadn't done the math. People don't. Caregiving is invisible in a specific way. You see the person being cared for. You see them declining or stabilizing. You maybe see the caregiver looking tired. But you don't see the hours. You don't see 3 a.m. You don't see the days when I skipped meals because I forgot, or cried in the car before going back inside because I needed 30 seconds to fall apart before I could keep going. Robert hadn't seen any of that. That didn't make it okay. But it explained it. Patterson asked for a week to consult with his client. Howard said, of course. We hung up. Howard looked at me. That went better than I expected, he said. Did it? Robert backed off the portfolio in the house, he said. In the same call. That's significant. I nodded. I was looking at my hands, which were doing this thing they'd started doing after Mom died. Just resting in my lap, not holding anything, not doing anything useful, which still felt slightly wrong. For 4 years my hands were always busy. What do you think he'll come back with? I said. Something he can live with, Howard said. Something that lets him feel like he participated in the outcome, without actually having participated in anything. I thought about that. Howard, I said. Can I ask you something? Did Mom know? When she updated the will, did she know it might end up like this? He was quiet for a moment. Patricia was a very practical woman, he said carefully. She loved her sons. She also knew them very well. He paused. She asked me when we updated the document what would happen if they contested it. I told her. She thought about it. Then she said, and I'm quoting because I wrote it down, "Good. Let them contest it. Maybe the number will teach them something the phone calls didn't." I stared at him. She planned for this, I said. She prepared for it, he said. There's a difference. I sat with that for a while. My mother, in the last 2 years of her life, in between the bad nights and the medication adjustments and the physical therapy sessions and all of it, had been quietly, methodically making sure that if her sons decided to fight over what she left behind, they would walk into that fight blind and I would not. She hadn't told me, because she knew I wasn't doing it for the money and she didn't want me to start. She just took care of it, the way she always had. The way I realized she'd been watching me take care of things for 4 years. I pressed my lips together hard. Okay, I said. We wait for Patterson. I went home. I sat in her kitchen for a long time. Then I went out to the garden and started pulling weeds. It needed doing. And I had the time now. Patterson called back in 5 days, not 7. Which told me something. Either Robert had made his decision quickly, or he'd made it the day after our call and spent 4 days pretending to think about it. Knowing Robert, probably the second one. The offer was this. He and Daniel would drop the will contest entirely. No probate, no court, no more attorneys talking to attorneys. In exchange, they each wanted $15,000 from the estate's cash, which came out of the $47,000 savings account Mom had left me. So $30,000 total. I keep everything else. House, investments, the remaining $17,000 in savings. Howard walked me through it on the phone. When he finished, he said, "It's your decision." I didn't answer right away. $30,000 to make it go away. To not spend the next year in probate court watching Robert's attorney try to argue my mother wasn't of sound mind. To not have to sit across from my brothers in a courtroom and say out loud all the things that were in that spreadsheet. I thought about it for maybe 40 seconds. Yes, I said. Tell them yes. The paperwork took 3 weeks. Robert and I spoke once during that time briefly about logistics, nothing personal. He was professional, measured. We were both being careful in the way people are careful when they've said things that can't be unsaid and haven't yet figured out what comes next. Daniel texted me. Of course he did. Hey Meg, hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to say no hard feelings on my end. Family first, right? I looked at that text for a long time. Then I typed back. Yeah, take care, Daniel. And that was that. Look, I've thought a lot about whether I'm angry at them, whether I should be. The honest answer is complicated in a way that doesn't fit neatly into what people expect when they hear a story like this. Robert and Daniel are not cartoon villains. They're just men who made a series of small choices that added up to something large. They chose their careers. They chose distance. They chose phone calls instead of presents. None of those individual choices was monstrous. But over 4 years they accumulated into something that was, when you put it on a spreadsheet and looked at it clearly, pretty hard to argue with. Do I wish they'd been different? Yeah, of course. There were nights I was so tired I could barely see straight, and I thought about calling Robert and saying, "Your turn, I need a week." I never did. Partly because I knew he wouldn't come. Partly because, and this is the part one don't always admit, I didn't want to share it. Mom and I had something in those 4 years. Something real and hard and entirely ours. I'm not sure I would have traded that even if I could. Which maybe makes me as complicated as they are. I don't know. The will was finalized on a Thursday in June. I signed the last of the paperwork in Howard's office. Same conference room. Same slightly too cold air conditioning. Gloria offering water from the doorway. Howard slid the documents across the table and I signed where the tabs were, and that was it. The house was mine. The investments were mine. 1,460 days of showing up, paid in full. After Howard walked me to the elevator, pressed the button, then said sort of casually, like it was an afterthought, "Your mother also left something else. Not in the will. I've been holding it." He handed me an envelope. My name on the front in her handwriting. The handwriting from before the tremor got bad, neat and slanted slightly, right the way it always was. I held it but didn't open it there. I thanked him. Got in the elevator. Stood in the lobby of that building on SW Broadway for a minute, envelope in both hands. Then I walked to the park 2 blocks over. A small one, just a handful of benches and some Douglas firs, and I sat down and opened it. It was 2 pages. Not 4 like I'd expected 2. Written on her good stationery, the cream-colored stuff she kept in the desk drawer in the study. She started by saying she knew I probably hadn't expected any of this. She said she hoped I wasn't too overwhelmed. And then right after that she wrote, "Who am I kidding? You never get overwhelmed, you just get quiet and then you handle it." And I had to stop reading for a second because that was so exactly her voice it physically hurt. She said she'd watched me for 4 years and she wanted me to know she'd seen all of it. Not just the appointments and the medications, all of it. The mornings I was too tired to eat breakfast. The time she'd heard me crying in the bathroom and pretended not to know. The way I put my phone away every time I walked into her room so she'd have my full attention. She'd seen it. She said she was sorry it had cost me so much. That line took me a while to get past. Then she said, "I need you to do something for me. Not the house, not the money, that's done. I need you to go back to work. Not immediately. Take some time. But go back. You were good at it and you loved it and I watched you set it down and I need you to know I watched you pick it back up someday, at least in my head. So please, make that true." The last paragraph was short. "You took care of me for 4 years without ever making me feel like a burden. I don't know how you did that. It's the thing I'm most grateful for. Not the medications or the appointments, the way you made it feel ordinary. Like it was just us, just normal, just Tuesday. Thank you for giving me that. I love you so much it's embarrassing. Mom." I sat on that bench for a while. The Douglas firs were doing their thing, just being enormous and indifferent in Portland in the specific way that Portland is Portland. A dog walked by and looked at me with the frank curiosity of dogs and then kept going. A kid on a bike nearly hit a trash can and didn't. I wasn't thinking about the house or the $340,000 or Robert's attorney or any of it. I was thinking about Tuesday mornings. The specific quality of a Tuesday morning in that house. Coffee smell, her medication alarm going off at 7, the sound of the local news she liked to have on even when she wasn't really watching it. The way she'd look at me when I brought her breakfast and say, "Good morning, baby," in that voice she had. The voice that got quieter toward the end but never went away until it did. I folded the letter back up and put it in my bag. Then I took out my phone and opened the app one used for client management. The one I hadn't opened in almost 2 years. It asked if I wanted to restore my account. I said yes. I didn't call anyone that day. Didn't reach out to old clients, didn't update my portfolio, didn't do anything official. I just reopened the door. Stood in the doorway. Looked at what was there. It was still there. That was something. The garden took me most of the summer. It was worse than I'd thought. 4 years of inconsistent attention will do that. I pulled things out and replanted, made mistakes, killed 2 rose bushes before I figured out the drainage situation, bought a book about Pacific Northwest perennials and read it on the back porch in the evenings with bad tea because Mom had always said I made bad tea and I was starting to think she was right. Robert called in August. Not about anything legal, just called. Asked how I was doing. I told him. We talked for maybe 20 minutes about nothing in particular. It was careful and a little awkward and honestly better than I'd expected. He didn't apologize. Not directly. But at the end of the call he said, "I should have come more." Just that. Simple. I said, "Yeah." And we left it there, which felt like the right place to leave it. Daniel I haven't spoken to since the text. Maybe that changes eventually. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not managing that expectation in either direction. I've spent enough years managing things. I'm taking a break from that. I took my first client back in September. Small project. A young couple, first house, wanted help with the kitchen and the main living area. Modest budget, big enthusiasm. Approximately 47 Pinterest boards. The kind of clients I used to find exhausting before I understood what exhausting actually was. I drove to their house on a Tuesday morning. Walked in. Looked around at the space they had and the space they wanted and started doing the thing my brain does when I'm looking at a room. Identifying the bones, the light, the problems that aren't obvious yet. It felt like putting on a jacket I'd left somewhere and finding it still fit. Not the same as before exactly. I'm not the same as before. But close enough to recognize as mine. On the drive home I thought about Mom's letter. Go back. Make that true. Okay, I thought. Working on it. The garden was coming along. The rose bushes were still dead, but I'd gotten some good advice about that, so baby steps.